On the 23rd of May 2022, Erik ten Hag stated that eras come to an end. He may not have been the man to take the era down himself, but is the Man City era actually coming to an end? The genius coach Pep Guardiola, who transformed Manchester City into a hugely dominant club in the Premier League and managing the first club to ever win 4 Premier League trophies in a row and 6 overall, which Pep made very clear to the Liverpool fans during their 2-0 loss to the Reds in late November, and of course a breathtaking treble in 2023. But despite all of this, Pep is looking like he's out of ideas. For the first time in Pep's tenure, City have gone 7 games without a win and have been embarrassed in the Champions League for 2 matches in a row. They lost 4-1 against Sporting, bottled a 3-goal lead against Feyenoord, and then were roundly beaten by Liverpool. So, is Pep losing his touch? And will the 115 charges make their season even worse? When Pep Guardiola joined City in 2016, he didn't immediately achieve success. His first season was actually a season to forget, but he had laid the foundations of a revolution that would not only change Manchester City, but football itself around the globe. Now, just like Guardiola does, teams want to start to play from the back, invert their fullbacks into the midfield, and try to keep hold of the ball as much as possible. With City's resources, Guardiola was able to constantly change things at City and keep the squad fresh by heavily rotating the players, which even became known as Pep Roulette. However, Guardiola doesn't have a replacement for certain players who maybe he considers the untouchables, and this has led to City having an ageing squad, which I'll address later on in this video. Current team problems aside, Guardiola's approach has helped City attain success, including a historic 4 Premier League titles in a row. Year after year, despite their success, City were always hungry for more. But now, with how their form is, have they become satisfied with what they've achieved? I mean, how else would you explain City dominating Feyenoord in the Champions League, scoring 3 goals, and yet completely losing the plot in the last 15 minutes of the game? They went from order to chaos and completely crumbled. What are they doing wrong? City, who've built a reputation of being relentless through a combination of both technical and physical abilities, cannot seem to match their opponents in the physical aspects of the game any longer. When it comes to duels, City are turning up second best, and there's a lack of teamwork when they press their opponents. Tottenham, Arsenal, Brighton and Liverpool have been better at collective pressing than City. Right now, City are all over the place and unable to maintain their solid, disciplined structure. They are seriously missing the Ballon d'Or winner Rodri, who's the linchpin of City's style of play, but unfortunately was at the wrong end of a season-ending injury early on in the campaign. Now, Rodri is an all-action midfielder, and he's crucial to Manchester City, both when they're with the ball and without it. Off the ball, Rodri uses his immense athleticism to protect the defence. He doesn't back out of duels. Anywhere there's a battle, he'll be there and he'll dominate. In the 23-24 Premier League season, he won 56% of his ground duels and 71% of his aerial duels. And as if that wasn't impressive enough, Rodri also won 61% of his tackles, made at least an interception per game, and recovered the ball 235 times. Now, this is the defensive balance that City have been missing. And Pep's solution? To use Rico Lewis and pairing with Gundogan, either as an inverting fullback or as a pivot, well, it isn't working. It's even presenting problems of its own, but more on this later on. City don't only miss Rodri for his defensive contributions. The Ballon d'Or winner is an extra source of goals, assists, and chance creation for the team. He's also City's conductor, helping them dictate the tempo of the game and retaining possession. In the 23-24 season, he averaged over 100 passes per game, had about 241 accurate long balls, created 8 big chances, made 9 assists and scored 8 goals. No wonder he won the Ballon d'Or, even if it was a little controversial. Rodri is far too influential for City from his holding midfield role. With him, City have won 73.6% of their games, and without him, they've only won 58.3%. With how City's style needs a holding midfielder and one of Rodri's attributes, why didn't Pep Guardiola push for the signing of another holding midfielder of a similar profile? I mean, City could have also tried for Martin Zubimendi. They might have had better luck than Liverpool. They could also have done a better job of convincing Romeo Lavia to stay. With Lavia's injury record, he would have been the perfect deputy, as there wouldn't be too much pressure on him from the perspective of playing all the time. Also, Guardiola didn't really give defensive midfielder Calvin Phillips a chance, and he even accused Phillips of being overweight at some point, before then shipping him off on loan to West Ham and then to Ipswich Town. Now, City have no replacement for Rodri, and it is costing them dearly. Now, unfortunately, though, Rodri isn't the only crucial player they don't have a backup for, so this isn't just about Rodri. City have a growing fitness problem and an ageing squad. This is worsened by the fact that they don't have a backup for the key areas in their squad. We've discussed Rodri, but the club still don't have a backup for their creator-in-chief, Kevin De Bruyne. De Bruyne, who's currently 33 years old, has become prone to injuries as he gets older. He's only started about 19 of around 49 Premier League games since his injury in the 2023 Champions League final win over Inter Milan in 2023. De Bruyne has formed a lethal combo with Erling Haaland, and the duo have consistently helped City demolish opponents. Now, one part of that duo is missing, and because of Guardiola's inability to promise game time, City have lost the player who could have easily replaced De Bruyne in Cole Palmer. Palmer competed against Haaland for most goals in the 23-24 season, scoring 22 goals while also producing 11 assists. And so far in the Premier League in the 24-25 season, Palmer is continuing his immense form and is cementing himself as one of the best players in the league, if not the world. Click here for our video on Cole Palmer and subscribe if you enjoy. But still, Guardiola didn't learn from that mistake. In fact, he even doubled down on it. Instead of going for a younger midfielder to replace the aging Bernardo Silva and Mateo Kovacic, he chose to sign Ilkay Gundogan at 34 years of age. No wonder City don't have the crazy pressing ability they used to have in the midfield. Their midfielders may not just have the legs. Now, the situation is slightly better in defence. They have Ruben Dias, who's still in his prime, but unfortunately currently injured, and of course Josko Gvardiol, who's still managing to maintain his form in the attacking sense, notching up a few goals already. However, Manuel Akanji and Nathan Ake are also close to their 30s and are losing some of their explosiveness. John Stones is in his 30s, same as Kyle Walker. Now, unfortunately, apart from their age, Akanji, Ake, Stones and Walker are still on their way to full fitness. Fortunately for City, Kyle Walker does have a replacement in Rico Lewis, but despite that, Walker was still playing because Lewis was needed elsewhere, and according to Pep, he's the only player we can't rest. Speaking of Lewis, as excellent as he has been for City, there are still aspects of his game that need refining. Against Sporting, City looked unbalanced when he inverted into the midfield to support Kovacic, who played the Rodri role. Now, Sporting took advantage of the space that Lewis left behind and dealt a lot of damage to City. Now, that isn't completely Lewis's fault. At the heart of it, Sporting saw a tactical flaw in Guardiola's setup and capitalised on it. It was the same flaw that Brighton saw and exploited. When City played Tottenham, Ange Postecoglou outsmarted Guardiola. Now, usually, when Tottenham play their 4-3-3 formation, opponents who play a back four and therefore have a free man in defence. Now, this is because each fullback stays on a winger and one centre-back tracks the striker, leaving the other centre-back free. Giving Pep's City a free man in defence means City would have a potential damage dealer who'd be free to progress the ball from defence to attack. And so Postecoglou tweaked things just to deny City that freedom. The Tottenham coach instructed a midfielder to engage City's remaining free centre-back and also had a full-back move into City's half. Now, this was a dangerous move because Tottenham gained a free man in City's half, but it meant that City had a free midfielder and winger. However, Tottenham was smart. They had the players engaging the City centre-backs drop back, forcing the City centre-backs to follow them. This then left space that could be exploited, and Tottenham used that space to deal damage. However, even with Guardiola getting outsmarted, some City players have also been culpable in their current problems, and the main player is someone who you might not expect. Can you guess who? Walker has been suspect in some of City's games, but there's nothing much he can do when he's against some of the most explosive wingers that the Prem has to offer. Gvardiol has been excellent in attack for City, but defensively, not as much. He had a really bad day in the office against Feyenoord and was caught napping in at least a couple of their goals. The same goes for Rico Lewis, who can do better with some of his decision-making. However, Erling Haaland takes the icing for players that have been less than stellar for City. Now, I know this probably seems strange, considering Haaland scored 12 goals already in the 24-25 season, and he's now the fastest player to reach 75 goals in Premier League history. But still, Haaland has been wasteful for City. He's missed 12 big chances this season. In the matches that they've lost, Haaland could have been the difference had he been more clinical. Against Tottenham, he had at least 3 decent chances to put City ahead, but failed to hit the target, which allowed Tottenham to grow into the game. However, look, I will admit that there is an extra pressure to score goals on Haaland, considering City's other players who could have helped with goals aren't currently able to. Phil Foden, who scored 19 goals in the previous season, hasn't scored a single one this campaign. He's only assisted once. Julian Alvarez, who also scored 11 goals for City last season and was understandably sold for an excellent profit to Atletico Madrid, is now gone. So now, after Haaland, only Kovacic, who isn't really much of a goal scorer, and Gvardiol, who plays left back, are the 2 next highest goal scorers for City at 3 goals each. Now, while City did sign another attacker in Savinho, he's known for creating chances rather than scoring himself. Even attacking midfielder Claudio Echeverri, who they signed from River Plate and will join them in January 2025 after he turns 19, well, he isn't much of a goal scorer either. Now, although he could be the De Bruyne replacement that they desperately need, if he adapts to the team. And that's a big if and a lot of pressure on a young player. But for the sake of the team, well, he really has to. So things are bad at City, and they're in chaos. But they can still turn the season around. City are still high up in the league table. Guardiola has to change the squad and find a way to invigorate them. These problems could really begin to mount if City face punishment for any of their 115 charges that are outstanding against them. Already, Guardiola is feeling the pressure and seems to be unravelling. Now, is he the man to take City forward, or will City have to get a new coach?